Welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Trey. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out the show this week. We've got a really good episode for you this week. As you saw on the thumbnail or on the episode title, we've got IFL Commissioner Todd Tryon on the show to talk about the 2025 IFL season. We dive into the IFL Network. We dive into expansion talk for 2026 and beyond. And of course, the IFL National Championship game that will be taking place in Tucson this upcoming Saturday. So dove into a lot with the commissioner and was very excited to be able to chop it up with him. And it sounds like the IFL's got some really cool things in the hopper here coming soon. But before we dive into that interview with Commissioner Tryon, it's time to do some social plugs. That's right. If you don't already, please make sure you follow us on socials at Off the Wall FB. F as in foot, B as in ball, Off the Wall FB. We're on Instagram, X/Twitter, TikTok, all the things and stuff. If you're there, we're probably there. So give us a follow, and, join the conversation, interact. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. Let me know what content you want to see on the socials. We're mixing it up, trying all sorts of stuff. If you're watching this on YouTube, you may notice that we have a bit of a different look, trying stuff out. Let me know what you think of the new look here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all the things and stuff. Throw a comment about, hey, you like this new perimeter? What should we do a little bit differently? The look with Commissioner Tryon is similar to this, but a little bit different. So we're trying all sorts of things over here. We're trying to see what sticks and see what elevate the product as much as we can. But if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So you should go check it out on YouTube so that you can see it. But if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please make sure you're going to the show page, rating it 5 stars, liking the episode, sharing with a friend, all the good stuff there as well. Every little bit of support helps and goes a long way. So I really appreciate everyone who's shown love, followed, rated the show, liked the show, subscribe, all that stuff. It's meant a lot, especially through this 2025 season that we're coming up on the end of with the IFL National Championship right around the corner. But let's not waste any more time. Here is the interview with Commissioner Tryon.
All right, on the show this week, we've got somebody who's been in the world of indoor football for over 25 years now as a player, coach, team owner, and commissioner of the Indoor Football League. We've got Mr. Todd Tryon. Commissioner, really appreciate you taking the time to hop on the show. How are we feeling? We've got a busy week ahead, but we're getting closer to kickoff of the 2025 IFL National Championship game in Tucson.
There's not enough time, Trey. We need another couple of weeks, but it's going to come whether we're ready or not. And I was just talking to you. We got 6 events that we put on in a short amount of time, and there's a lot of planning and details. And details not my specialty, but you figure it out, and we'll get it done.
Yeah, exactly. But it's been a fun 2025 season, but we'll dive into that in a bit. But to start off on Off the Wall, we typically, hear about people's football journey. And while we could have a trilogy of podcast episodes and not even have enough time to talk through everything you've been through, give us a brief rundown of your introduction to indoor football and, an abridged version of how you became the commissioner of the IFL.
I moved to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I saw in the paper they're starting up an indoor team. I just got done playing at the University of South Dakota. I was like, I'll go try out for it, and made the team, and met a lot of good people in the process. And I did it. I knew I wasn't going to go to the NFL. I used it as a platform to meet people and network myself. And I ended up opening a gym and opened the first 24-hour gym in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and kind of built that into multiple locations. But through the span of 5 years of playing indoor football, it was a great experience. Met a lot of great people, and got the business up and going, and decided. I got married, had a couple kids at that point. I was like, climbing on a bus for a few $100 wasn't the smartest move.
Yeah.
So, retired from football, but kept coaching as we built our business. And in 2009, which would have been my 4th year coaching, I decided, I'm going to get out of this. And the owner at the time brought me into the front office, needed some help, and like a lot of people who get into ownership, I stuck enough of my own money into the team and essentially acquired it. And so in 2010, I bought the team and ran it for 10 years. And that's a whole nother story. But in 2019, we went to the Arizona Rattlers championship game, and we knocked them off. They were undefeated in front of 15,000 people. And I looked at my wife, and I was like, "Hey, let's get out of this. It's time."
Yeah.
and sold the team, and it sold it to a great family, and I was out for about a week and got recruited in the commissioner position, and here I sit 6 years later.
You thought you were out. You,
My wife thought I was out. My wife
your
thought
wife.
we were out, but little did she know, here we are.
Yep. Yep. So, what are some things you learned as a coach and then as a team owner that you think helped prepare you for the role of commissioner?
I think it's everything. I think from a player to a coach to an owner, you see things from different perspectives, and that's life in general. Is you sit here and experience things in different perspective, and as you do that, and then you become the commissioner, you're able to see things from points of view that most people can't see it.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a lot of comparisons in owning a team and being a commissioner, but I think the biggest difference in being a commissioner of the IFL is, you've walked in everybody's shoes, and you can relate to everybody. And, a lot of times, it's what it takes to get the job done.
Yeah, and I'm sure part of the getting the job done is, long term and big picture planning, where you're not just planning for this week or next year. Like, you got to be thinking a couple years down the line. What is your vision for what the league can be, 5-10 years from now? Like, how do you see the league growing and evolving?
I think the WNBA has been a fun thing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way that it was really, really, I don't want to say unknown, but people weren't really paying attention to it. And all it took was, one to two players, depending on who you talk to
Yeah.
really, really put that thing in the mainstream. And, I think that the IFL is no different. I mean, we're 1 to 2 players away from really getting us out into the mainstream. And I think we've done a great job of cleaning up our presentations, like our standards that we have risen over the last 5 years to the way your field looks and where you're buying it from, and your dasher pads, and our uniform deal, and even our IFL Network, which was really popular, by the way. Those are all strategic moves to what we're going to be in the future. And those are steps that we had to take to get to where we're trying to go, because we're going to get there.
Right. Yeah, and that presentation thing, I think that's underrated, and I think people don't really understand that. Where you look at the league in this past season, there was not a single bad field, and it was all upgraded fields. It was all super nice presentations. So it was like, all right, like you said, the standard was risen, and like all the teams are meeting it and exceeding it.
And so what it does, and I know you'll ask about expansion here in a little bit, but as you set the standard and as you bring in new teams, they understand, hey, this is the bar you have to hit, or you're not going to be invited into our league. You're not going to be approved into our league. And so, our growth process is a touch slower at this point compared to some other leagues in this industry, but the ones we bring in are going to come in at a high level. They're going to come in at a Fisher's freight. I think you guys all saw what they did. And, that's going to be the future of our ownership right there, is that type of standard, because where we're headed, it's going to take that type of standard to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and lots has changed in the landscape of indoor football and sports in general since you became commissioner, but specifically with sports betting. How big a role do you see sports betting and fantasy football continuing to play in the growth of the IFL moving forward?
It'll be big. I mean, so we've been struggling between a regional league and a national league. Mm-hmm. And to get to the national league, or national presence that we're trying to get, it's going to take some a national broadcast deal. And we went after the betting side of things and really cleaned things up, and went with the integrity side, and partnered with a certain type of a betting platform, and it put us in a position. Once again, all these moves we made has put us into a position of a national broadcast and a national streaming deal, which really takes us from a regional league to a national league. And when that happens, you are going to see the national sponsors come aboard. You're going to see the major betting platforms come aboard. You're going to see, our WNBA moment. I'm sorry to use that, but it's going to happen.
That's fair, yeah.
You just you watch. I mean, it's been a strategic move, and it's come with the criticism of a lot of people. And hey, whatever. I mean, you don't know the direction that we're going.
Yeah,
but it's the direction that a lot of people want to see us go.
Yeah. Well, not to brag, but over the past couple of years, we've gone 116 and 107 against the spread here at Off the Wall, so not a big deal. It is what it is. But like, how do you really lean into that? Like you have it on the broadcast, but how do you make it a bigger part of the sport than what it already is?
Well, we haven't made it a bigger part because the DraftKings is offering us, Bet365 is offering us, FanDuel's offering us, but they have not paid us the dollar to promote them. And so as soon as you sit here and start promoting them, why would they ever pay you a dollar to do so?
Fair.
And they won't pay you until you're on a bigger platform. And so the whole concept on going to the IFL Network was, okay, we have to take everything in-house. We have to build our book of business so we know who our audience is, so we know exactly what it is that when these partners do come aboard, who they're partnering with, what their race is, what their sex is, what their age is, what their demographic, like all those things that YouTube couldn't give us. They wouldn't give it to you.
That's fair, yeah.
And so, that was one of the major reasons that we went the direction that we went. But when you look at the future of betting, it's going to come with a national audience, and we're going to be there sooner than people think.
That's awesome. Well, I do have a small airing of grievances about sports betting with the IFL. On behalf of all sports betting enthusiasts out there, what do we have to do to get mandated injury reporting for these teams and games? Because I'll tell you what, there is nothing worse than you're feeling great about a pick, and then the game starts and quarterback's out with an undisclosed injury that nobody had any idea about except his cousin and best friends. Like, how do we solve that? What do we do?
Well, eventually we'll have to do that. Once again, right now, when you're not partnered with these guys, when they're not paying you to tell you what to do and how to do it,
right?
You continue the direction that you are. And so, it's kind of fun, like sitting there watching the lines being put out. And it took them about 2 weeks to figure out that, Tulsa did not have a starting quarterback playing.
Yeah.
There's been a few other, Jacksonville had a gap there where, they were questionable with their starting quarterback. And there was a handful of other teams that, I was like, you know what, if I wasn't the commissioner, this would probably be a pretty easy play. But you got to stay out of that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, you've touched on it a few times. 2025 was the first season of the IFL Network. Sparked quite a bit of conversation when it was launched, some ups and downs, but what letter grade would you give it in its first year of existence?
Well, I don't know how you don't give it an A from presentation. Mm-hmm. We had one issue on a stream, and that was in San Antonio, and that was from the coin flip guy who was raffling from the rafters, had stepped on the wires up top that set off the feed. And it took him a quarter to figure out where the problem was. Yeah. And outside of that, there was very few, if any, broadcasting problems.
Right.
And so, not one time did we get a call from YouTube or our IFL Network that they're pulling our stream down, or that you don't get a call. They just pull your stream down because of, music problems.
Right.
We had none of that. And, I thought it was outstanding. I thought we had a great first year. And, there was a couple things that when we partnered with a company that we partnered with, I thought a few things were going to happen a little quicker. That, I thought multi-view was going to come a little quicker. We were supposed to have, during in-game, you're supposed to see the other games that were going on, the scores up top. That didn't get incorporated. Well, it never got incorporated, but it was supposed to happen sooner than it did. Yeah. There's a couple other things that it didn't happen soon enough, but it's what you saw is the start. It sure is not the end of the direction that we're going.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad you touched on that because I met with some folks, some other fans of indoor football about hey, I'm not Tryon. I'm like, what do you guys want to talk about? And that IFL Network, especially with the multi-view, the TV app, even episodes, the weekly episodes of Inside the IFL, they just weren't there. So I'm happy to hear that you kind of touched on that already. Is that something where you mentioned that we're only going up from here, but are those same things still on the radar, still on the roadmap to be able to achieve with the IFL Network moving forward?
Which one?
The smart TV app or the multi-view?
So the smart TV app, so that is a heck of an investment. It takes 35 to 40 grand just to get on one type of smart TV. So if you're wanting to get on Apple TV, okay, there's 35 grand. If you want to get on Roku, okay, there's 35 grand. If you want to get on, your typical smart TV, okay, there's 35 grand. Well, the whole point of us building our network was to take our network and move it to another streaming platform. Okay, and we're not going to move that until it's the right offer. And we had a couple of them this year that we could have moved them. It would have been on big TV, but it wasn't the right offer and it wasn't the right time. And you guys are going to see here sooner than later that this was a strategic move for us. That why would you spend $100 grand to build your own TV app when there's multiple streaming platforms out there willing to pay to bring your content over? And that's ultimately what the end goal is.
Yeah, and as the season progressed, there were some games that were featured on some maps outside of the IFL Network. Was that a part of those discussions that you just mentioned, where it's like a free game of the week over on here or there?
It was a strategy to expand our audience, is what it was, and it was a taste test for them to make us an offer. I mean, hey, we've got 126 games, content. It's pretty first class. We'll give you a taste, see what your people think. And, there's multiple ways that you can monetize this. And I love how the consumer out there is always talking about how we're just, we're only trying to make a buck. I mean, we are a business. I mean, we are trying to make a buck. We provide outstanding content. We have outstanding talent, whether it's on the field or off the field. And, it would shock you what it takes to broadcast a game and the expense that it takes. And but we gave a few taste tests to some people out there to try and consume our product. And but I think our end goal is going to be pretty impressive.
Okay.
Our end result is going to be pretty impressive.
Okay. All right. I'm excited to see it all unfold here. Do you anticipate seeing more televised games beyond just the IFL National Championship game in the future? Because I'll tell you what, if these conference championship games, if they were on CBS, they probably would have broken records this past year.
We will. We will be on a bigger stage, and it will be on a weekly basis.
Very nice.
Just sit tight.
Okay. Got it. All right. So when you look back on the 2025 season, what do you think are like some of the biggest successes of the league, whether it's with the IFL Network, whether it be like on the on-field play itself? Like, what do you think you can build off of into 2026?
I think it's always a question on, what's your measure of success? And, when we look at a league, the biggest thing, when we put the schedule out in October, can you complete the season on the dates you said you're going to complete the season with the teams you said you're going to do it?
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a low standard to hit. But, not many can do it. And we were able to do that. We put the schedule out in October, and every team that started finished. Every game that was scheduled, played. Every game was competitive. You saw up until the end of the season, you had teams that weren't even making the playoffs, knocking teams off at the top of the seed. And I think our parity's unmatched, from top to bottom. I think our presentation's unmatched from top to bottom. And I think that our playoffs show that, I mean, anybody can win this at any time, and that's that's a testament of a real league. Is you can't predict who's going to win it before the season starts, and you have no idea. And so I think we had an outstanding season, and I think 26 is stacking up to be even better. And what's crazy is 27, and that's what's when you stabilize and you start getting your vision out there. Not only are you preparing for 26, we are preparing for 27. And I can't explain what 27 looks like, but 26, you're going to see some pretty impressive announcements also.
Awesome. All right. So we got a lot to look forward to, it sounds like. And touching on what you mentioned about the playoffs, you play this same playoffs 8 different times, you probably get 8 different winners at the end, just because, like you mentioned on that parody, what were there, 8 double-digit win teams all in the playoffs? Like, you could have made a case for literally every single team that was in the playoffs to make a run. So it just made for some really, really quality matchups.
Trey, we had 6 teams that were 10-6.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unbelievable. One team 11-5 and one team 13-3. And I mean, 13-3 got knocked off first round. It's the parity's outstanding.
Yeah, it was awesome. And the fact that you had the resort to tiebreakers, as razor thin as they were, it's like, man,
It was, and I mean, I got hammered on that. But
Yep.
we had both sides. We had 3-team tiebreakers, and the tiebreaker is you eliminate somebody first.
Yep.
Which I mean, you sometimes you just don't got to explain yourself, but you
Yep.
eliminate. Anyway, so thank God we had those in play. But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it
Well,
worked out the way it's supposed to.
it did. Yeah, it did.
For most.
Well, the next thing I want to touch on, it gets the people going. It really drives conversation around this time of year and in the off season. It's expansion. So for starters, what do we know now for 2026, and what can we expect timeline wise for potential announcements to be made?
Well, I think what is Duke City is rebranded and they're coming back, and that announcement's going to be made. And they've got an outstanding ownership group that's going to come back into play, and they've already made their hire at coach, and they're going to be an immediate contender. And the thing about expansion is, can they compete?
Right.
You don't want to expand and bring a team in and they go 1-15. That's no good for anybody. And so when you're looking at expansion, you want to make sure they have a long enough runway to succeed. And, Fishers was another great example. They started hot and then they lost, 7, 8 in a row. And then they rattled off 5 straight and ended up 7-9. That's a competitive team. And, so when we take a look at expansion, that's something that we're taking a look at is we don't want to add last minute teams. To be sitting here taking a team that's just now applying for the 26th season and expect them in 6 months to put together, a staff that can generate the revenue and generate the season ticket base and put a competitive team out there and do the things that it takes to compete at an IFL level. It doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
So the teams that we're looking at now is for 27. And that's the difference that our league's at right now is we've got a team right now that we're looking at for 28. And they got to get in now and pay the dues now and get we're going to wait a little bit to make the announcement just from a strategy standpoint. But
right,
that's where our league is at right now is we're able to forecast out 12, 16, 18 months. We're not sitting here doing the 6-month deal. That it doesn't tend to work.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, what goes into that process? Like, what types of things make a market or a franchise appealing to you as a league? Like, you're like, okay, we could have something there. Like, what are one or two of those things?
Well, it starts with the ownership group. It's got to be a solid ownership group that's got as our standards continue to rise, our ownership groups continue to rise. And when they sit there at the round table on Friday morning here in Tucson, they want to be looking across the room at somebody that's similar to them. And so, that's something that you have to take into account when you continue to recruit these teams and take these applications and comb through them. Is this somebody that fits the room? And as the league rises, there's fewer amounts of those types of ownership groups applying. But the ones that are applying, the ones that are getting approved are few and far between.
Yeah.
And so, you look for ownership group number 1, demographic location number 2. I mean, our focus right now is the Southeast. We're really focused on developing the Southeast to the Midwest to the Southwest, is really that kind of focus. And so demographic, arena relationship, that is becoming a really big deal. Obviously, does the arena fit your game and your standard and what you're trying to do? But there's a lot of arenas out there, and Sioux Falls is a great example that, they don't want indoor football. It's got such a bad name and a bad rap that, they're given such poor contracts that they're setting you up to fail to begin with. So,
right.
Does the arena meet your standard? Does the contract set you up for a win-win situation? And then the fourth thing is who's operating it? Is this somebody that has experience in operating a sports team? And, we're talking about before the start, I mean, my staff is not real big. Okay. So to sit here and hold the hand of, 1 to 2 to 3 expansion teams that have no experience in this industry, you're not doing them justice. You can't do it. And so the ones that you're bringing in, need to have experience, or their infrastructure needs to be pretty solid, or you kind of need to only take 1 of them or 2 of them. And so, that hockey model is really evolving in our league.
Yeah.
And you're going to see more of it. And it's the ECHL model to where they've already got the infrastructure in place. Vegas started it, and then it was Tulsa, and then it was Fishers, and then we'll wait on that. But, there's multiple ones that they get it. They put on 42 dates. They put on 42 games, and they've got the infrastructure in place, and all they're doing is tagging on 8 more home games, and it makes a lot of sense, and
right.
We'll take a handful of those over an expansion team that has minimal experience that you got to sit here and teach them and train them on how to do this.
Right. Well, you took 2 questions that were coming up next right out of my mouth about the hockey model, because it's been working really, really well. Like, you look at Vegas, Tulsa, Fishers, it just seems like it's obviously not effortless, but it's seamless in what they're able to do with, like you said, instead of having to reinvent the wheel. They already have the infrastructure in place. You're just tacking on a few extra dates, like you mentioned. So it's really cool to see that that's intentional, and we could see more of it moving forward.
You will see more of it.
All right, we will. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So to wrap up expansion here, in the past you've mentioned the magic number of 24 being that ideal number of teams. Is that still the case in your eyes, or is it something where it could go a little bit larger than that? Years and years and years down the line. Like, what's that look like?
24 is the goal here, and to be honest, we could have hit it if we lowered our standard, but we chose to stay the course, and it's going to be a slower growth this year. Next year to be a quicker growth, and I feel like eventually you're going to get to a point where the ones that are taking this serious and have the right ownership groups and are doing this for the right reasons and want to make some money, we'll eventually migrate to where we're at. And, I think we'll get there. I predict over the next 3 to 4 years, we'll get to where we're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to say that, 24 is the end number, because, right now 24 is the goal. And when you hit your goal, you always sit there and reevaluate. And if you've got the right people and there's still interest, and it's the right ones that are knocking, then you'll take a look.
Yeah, you'll take a phone call. You'll hear them out. Just see what they bring to the table, right?
My job is to raise the valuations of these teams. Yeah, and the way you do that is you put them on a national platform. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we've been working tirelessly on, is a national platform. Because a national platform now attracts national sponsors. It attracts, the major bettors, which, goes into your fantasy football, which goes into your injury reports.
Yeah.
You don't have injury reports if you don't have fantasy football. But, as you're doing that, you're raising the valuations of these teams, which means you're attracting, better ownership groups. And, that's the course that we're on.
That's fair. Well, I'm excited to see it all take shape. But like I mentioned before, I reached out to some folks and fans of indoor football, and I got some questions from them that they wanted to ask. Some are on the IFL, some are a little bit more about you as an individual. So are you ready for some fan submitted questions?
Please, love the fans. Let's go.
All right. Well, we got Kyle from Albuquerque here. He says, "What is a rule change that you've always been curious about implementing, but it just hasn't been introduced for one reason or another?"
I wouldn't say it's... So our rule set started in 2000, and a lot of the rules were put in play to give the offense the advantage because they wanted points scored. But as the game of football has evolved, it's evolved into a natural form of offense scoring points. And so this last year, we took multiple defensive rules out of play just to kind of see what it did. And to be honest, it didn't do much, And so we're now reevaluating. And the problem with a lot of the goofy indoor rules is it confuses the official, because they're used to the outdoor game. It confuses the consumer. It confuses the new player who just got in here on Tuesday, is getting thrown on the field Saturday. And you know what? I have to be straight up from a player, or I can't be in the belt, or, So our goal is to get pretty close to what the outdoor game is. And so I'd say a lot of the rule changes it's not about reinventing the wheel, because the game of football is outstanding. It's exciting, and it's the number one sport in the U.S. Why would you sit here and try to change rules on the number one
Right.
sport? So I think it's more getting closer to the outdoor game and
Right.
away from some of the goofy rules that we have.
Yeah, it's like if the game is on mute at a sports bar, can someone watching it understand what's going on? And there are some things where it's like a legal twist and a legal stunt. It's like that's football. So like when I saw that was taken away this past season as a defensive penalty, I was like, yes, let's go. Let the boys on the line eat a little bit. So I think being able to get a little bit closer to the outdoor game, like you said, make it as consumer friendly as possible. It's only going to do good things for the league.
One rule we made, and it was in season, was we pulled the referee from the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up putting a pink, I don't even know what it was, some type of pink product down on the field to signal the 5-yard line, and then he went into the backfield. And we did that, A, for referee safety, but B, to open up the defense and open up the field of play. And I think that was a great rule that we switched to. And there's a few more that you're going to take a look at and experiment. Some will work, some won't. But to sit here and say we're going to try and come up with some gimmick that's different than the outdoor game when it is so popular, I think the goal is to get more to the outdoor game that is so popular.
Yeah, and the playoffs were an indication that officiating was going to be a big topic of conversation. So I'm sure those conversations may have already taken place with certain individuals, but I'm sure many more will come.
It's been interesting, Trey. We've got an interesting couple weeks.
No kidding. Well, we got another question here. Spencer in Orlando, he says, if you get handed the microphone at karaoke, what song are you rolling with to get the people going?
I would probably hand the microphone back.
No.
It's a funny story. So I was in Italy. This was 2016. And my wife and I went there, and I don't even know what we're at. It was some stage. It was in some castle, and we're stuck back there. And anyway, of all people, I get picked out, and I had to get thrown into the dungeon. And anyway, the only way to get let free is I had to sing a song to the crowd that everybody would sing along with.
Oh no!
And so you're thrown onto a stage in front of, there's a couple hundred people. What song are you going to sing? What American song are you going to sing on the spot that everybody would know?
What'd you go, YMCA?
That's how much time I had. And instantly, I don't know why, I'm not a baseball fan, but I started singing "Take Me Out to the Ballpark."
That's good.
That's
a safe answer.
And I was a hero, and so I guess that's my go-to song if I'm stuck on stage and don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's only 60 seconds long too, so that's a good get out of jail free card. Whoever's listening, you get put on the spot. Take me out to the ball game. That's good. We got a question from Jeff in Des Moines. He says, "What is your skincare routine, and what's your secret to being so fit, Commissioner?"
Well, I'm 50 years old, and I got into working out at 18 or whatever it was, and I never quit. And I'm 5 to 6 days a week, so routine, noon to 1, boot camp style with some strength sprinkled in there. I'm a big believer. You take what's real good for you and what's real bad for you. You throw it out and eat what's in the middle.
Right.
And that's what I've adopted my whole life. I'm active. I got 3 kids. I got 2 daughters that are juniors and seniors that are very good looking girls that, I got to protect them. And I got a good looking wife and so I got to keep myself in shape. And I learned at an early age that, the number one job as a leader is to look the part. And, I've always felt as a leader that, you need to be the fittest guy in the room if you expect to be the leader of the room. And, I've always took that to heart.
That's fair. And last question here is from Jake in San Jose. He goes, what keeps you going and what keeps you motivated day in and day out as the commissioner of the IFL?
It's crazy, but naysayers and negativity motivate me.
Okay.
And so it's like, on one hand, you don't like to hear some of that, but on the other hand, it's really what fuels you. And, I would say that, motivation is knowing what it is you want.
Right.
It's funny. I was talking to, I think it was my wife this morning. I don't comprehend how people wake up in the morning and they don't have a list of things that they have to do. Like,
Right.
what do you do with your day then?
Yeah.
And so, it's so vital to, before I go to bed, I make my list. When I wake up, there's kind of a new list to attack as your emails. But, motivation is knowing what it is that you're trying to get accomplished for the day. And, you use the negativity as fuel and use positivity as fuel, and just understand that, man, life is short. Don't take nothing personal. And,
Yeah.
every day, let's go. It's a new day.
Let's roll. Well, I'm excited to see how everything takes shape with not just this week, but it sounds like the next couple years are going to be very exciting for the IFL. One last question before we get you out of here. The IFL National Championship game. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be action-packed. Both offenses are incredible. What are you most excited about for the game itself in Tucson?
Contrast of styles.
Yeah.
It's always intriguing when, the West is perceived as the stronger, more physical, better, and they've won it the last few years.
Right. Yeah.
But the East, I think they've caught up. And, specifically Green Bay, and I really got to give that ownership credit. The Trinklers, they came in 2014. They were not a fan of me. Okay, let's just be clear. They were not a fan of me taking this position. And, I really had to work my butt off to win that couple over. Larry and Kathy Trinkler, outstanding people. And it has been so fun to watch them build that program. They took it over, and that thing was in the trash. And they took it over, and they methodically built it and built it and built it. And last year, they're the number one seed. They thought it was their year. Massachusetts, went in and whooped them. And it's been really fun to see them regroup, rebuild, and come back, get to the championship game. And I think it is going to be an outstanding game. The opening line is 1.5. I think that probably surprised some people.
Yeah.
I've heard some people say back up the truck on Vegas, and I would be very cautious in backing the truck up on Vegas. But anything can happen, and I think it's going to be an exciting game, and that's all you can ask for. Is you just want it competitive, just like your conference championship games. You want that thing decided on the last possession.
Yeah, and I feel like it's going to be one of those games where whoever blinks first. It's going to be back and forth all up and down the field. Like you said, dynamic offenses and the opportunistic defenses too. I think both of these defenses find ways, steal a possession here and there. And that Vegas defensive line is really good. That Green Bay defensive line, they've got a couple of all-league guys from the past couple of years. It's just such an exciting matchup, and one I'm sure the league is very excited about. I'll be at the game, and like you said, if it's anything like those conference championship games, we're in for a treat. It's going to be on CBS Sports on Saturday, August 23rd. Very exciting time. And just thank you so much again for taking the time to hop on the show here. And hopefully I'll have a chance to see you in Tucson at the game itself.
Hey, Trey, I will make it a point to meet you. I appreciate your efforts and the time that you put into covering these leagues. I know that there's a lot that goes on, and you do a great job of covering it. And just appreciate you covering the IFL.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, the indoor game is so fun, and it sounds like it's only getting bigger and better from here. So I'm excited to see it. So I'll see you in a couple days out in Arizona. Okay.
Trey, looking forward to meeting you. Appreciate the time.
Thanks again to Commissioner Tryon for hopping on the show this week and dealing with the antics of Off the Wall, answering some legitimate questions I know a lot of folks in the indoor football community had about the IFL Network, about expansion, what that could look like. But it sounds like they got some really cool things planned, and they've got a roadmap laid out that's not just for the 2026 season. You heard them say, hey, we're in talks for 2027. We're in talks for some folks for 2028. So they've got a long roadmap ahead of them, and it's cool to see some of the hard work that they put in over the years. Some of that stuff is bearing fruit at this time, and they're just going to continue to grow and go from here. So I'm excited to see it all take place. And the IFL National Championship this upcoming weekend is going to be very, very fun. Super excited to see the matchup between Vegas and Green Bay. Also, just to get out ahead of this, audio wise, it sounded like my microphone switched over to my AirPods right when we started the interview. So that's why it may sound a little bit different. But hey, you know what? It's a learning experience for everybody. New setup, new layout here. Like, it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. Some of you may not have even noticed, and I'm just mumbling to the abyss here. But yeah, it is what it is. So speaking on the IFL National Championship game, I will be there in Tucson for the game. It's going to be very exciting. I'm excited to get out there, visit some friends that happen to live out there as well, and make our way to Tucson for the weekend. It's going to be a great game, like Commissioner Tryon mentioned. Vegas going in as 1.5-point favorites, which kind of makes sense. Vegas was my pick to win it all before the season started, and I just really like what they've been able to do, not just on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively. They're very opportunistic. Bryce Hampton, friend of the program, it finds ways to create turnovers, and that defensive line for Vegas is just unbelievably talented and disruptive. But then you look over at Green Bay, you look at that defensive line that they've got. They've got an all IFL, all rookie team IFL this year in Allen Henry. Then you've got a couple first and second team all IFL players from the past couple seasons, and Tremont Lofton, Rafiq Abdul-Wahid, Sean Mustin. They've got depth, and as much as I think the offenses are really going to pop off and show big play after big play, it feels like we're due for some of these defensive lines in particular to be extremely disruptive in these games. And there's just so many different ways it can go, and I think that's something you really strive for to have in a national championship game like this. And it's just going to be a very exciting game, and I'm super excited to see it all unfold in person in Tucson. So please make sure you're following us on socials. I'll be posting tons of content from the game itself, leading up to the game, and all that stuff. I know I touched on it with Commissioner Tryon, but since the last time we recorded, the two conference championships games went down for the IFL between Vegas and San Diego, and then Quad City and Green Bay. And I gotta say, these were two of the very best games potentially in the entire season of the IFL this year. Like you can, if you're making a top 10 list, those are for sure two of the top 10. Heck, if you're making a top 5 list, those two games are probably in the top 5. It's just been an unbelievable playoff run for the IFL, and that Vegas San Diego game was just so much fun, back and forth, back and forth. I think they nearly hit the over. Over was like 84 and a half, 85 and a half, just a disrespectfully low number for Vegas and San Diego. They nearly hit that at halftime, and yeah, it was just fireworks all up and down the field. Quentin Randolph had 6 touchdowns, 5 through the air, 1 on the ground, and it was just a matter of who had the ball last and who was going to be able to make a big play last. And Vegas was able to do it, and they were able to walk away with the win, and secure their spot in the IFL National Championship. So Vegas went from making the playoffs for the first time last year in 2024, getting beat on that last second play against Arizona, who ended up winning the whole thing, to this year making it a little bit further and making it to the IFL National Championship game itself. So Vegas, well-deserved. The pivot that they made midway through the season, from Jerome Johnson to Jaden DeLora, it just opened up this offense a ton. Jaden DeLora is a really talented thrower of the football, and to be able to bring in Jerome Johnson and take advantage of his dynamic abilities as a dual threat quarterback in the red zone, combine him with Antonio Wimbush, and it's just like, man, this Vegas team can get you so many different ways. It's just a matter of like, all right, pick your poison, and we're going to have to see how well they do against this Green Bay defense that hasn't been great all year. They played outstanding in 2024, but this year the offense has really carried them. So some pieces from that dominant defense came back in 2025, and how Vegas matches up against them is going to be a major key of the game. But for Green Bay, they won this game, and like Commissioner Tryon mentioned, they got smacked around last year in the Eastern Conference Championship game, and to see the redemption that they were able to achieve this year against Quad City and go into Quad City's house, and they had a pretty decent legion of fans travel to the game, and a back and forth affair where it just seemed like the offenses were just clicking on all cylinders. And for Green Bay to start off with I think it was like kickoff return for a touchdown, and then a deuce immediately after, like you blinked and the score was 9-0, and it was just going to be that type of game. But Max Miler has been playing just unbelievable all year, and he's been playing great in the playoffs. Probably going to win MVP. By the time this episode comes out, the MVP is probably going to be announced. So I hope this ages well. But yeah, it's this Green Bay offense is unbelievable. This Vegas team is unbelievable, and the kicking game for both teams is I think it's underrated for Vegas, but it's properly rated for Green Bay. Andrew Mevis was named to the All IFL team for kicking. And then that Eastern Conference Championship game, it showed. He was able to connect on some deuces, and he had a very timely ricochet off the crossbar that Green Bay was able to recover and go up for good towards the end of the game and secure their spot to the national championship game in Tucson. But Ben Derby for Vegas. Vegas's kicking problems were unbelievably bad the first couple games of the season, but as soon as they brought Derby in, they were able to get some consistency, and they were able to get some get some consistency on kickoffs and extra points as well. Yeah, this is just such a good matchup, and I can't stress enough how good of a game it's going to be between Vegas and Green Bay. So please make sure you check it out on CBS Sports. And let me know who you think is going to win the game. Let me know who you think is going to walk away with the IFL national title. It's going to be a first-time champion for one of these teams, and it's going to be a long trip home for the other. So I'm excited to see it. But yeah, let me know what you think. So we do have a bit of AF1 news we can touch on since the last time we released an episode. Last week's episode actually was pre-recorded like a week before it dropped. So we've got a couple weeks of things and stuff that have happened. And we got a couple expansion teams announced for Arena Football 1. We've got not expansion teams, but new teams to AF1. The Beaumont Renegades, who were the NAL champions in 2025. They've announced that they'll be going over to Arena Football 1. So it's going to be a bit of a change of play style, and it's going to be interesting to see who they retain and who they bring with them. But if head coach Corey Mayfield, he was in the AFL in the early 2000s, and he was one of those players that was on the offensive and defensive line way back in the day. So playing Ironman ball on the offensive line. If anybody knows about arena ball, it's going to be that guy. So I'm excited to see the roster that he builds, what pieces he ends up bringing back from that 2025 NAL championship squad, and how they just find their way and find their fit into the 2026 AF1 field of teams there, which they'll be joined by the latest expansion team that was announced earlier this week, the Kentucky Barrels. So it was rumored that there was going to be a team in Cincinnati, but it sounds like it's going to be a part of the greater Cincinnati area in northern Kentucky, on the campus of Northern Kentucky University. The Kentucky Barrels, it's caused quite a bit of stir online in terms of what that name is and why barrels, why this. I think it's pretty unique, and I think it's a pretty good name. It seems like folks either love it or hate it, but hey, if you don't have haters, you don't have fans, right? So yeah, I think it's a unique tip of the cap to the culture of Kentucky. 95% of the world supply of bourbon is made in the state of Kentucky, and was bourbon made in? Barrels, bourbon barrels. So that's why they're the Kentucky Barrels. So they have lots of branding, lots of activation opportunities ahead of them that they can do with this. And the team that they have in place with the arena, it sounds like the relationship they have with the arena is going to be really, really good. And the owner looks to have all of his ducks in a row. And they've got head coach Cedric Walker, who comes over from a couple years with the Billings Outlaws, where they won Arena Bowl 33, Brawl at the Mall. And it's a good start. It's a good start for this Kentucky Barrels team, and they've got some really good looking merch on Royal Retros as well. So it's pretty good. I like it. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Kentucky Barrels in the comments here, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, any of that stuff. Let me know what your thoughts are. There's still some stuff to be announced. The mentioned Michigan team, I would imagine, would be next up. It's just a matter of figuring out where that's going to be. Do they go the route of partnering with a university like what they did in Northern Kentucky with NKU? Do we see them go that route in Ypsilanti? And do we see them go that route in Kalamazoo? Do we see them go that route in Grand Rapids? Maybe that's similar to what the IFL does with partnering with hockey teams and ECHL, NHL, AHL teams. Maybe that's the move for AF1 over the next couple of years, is partnering with some universities, because it gets those universities some free exposure to a national audience when they do have those nationally televised games. It gives, those arenas some more dates to be filled beyond just like college basketball season and whatnot. So yeah, it seems like it could be a win-win-win across the board for all parties involved if it's done the right way. But that's the key. We just got to make sure we're doing it the right way. So I would anticipate some more news to be dropping with the AF1 in particular over the next couple of weeks. And yeah, the 2026 off season or 2025 off season into 2026 is going to be a fun one. And yeah, it's make sure you're staying tuned to Off the Wall socials and the weekly episodes of Off the Wall, because this is going to be very exciting. And that's the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to check it out. Thank you again to Commissioner Tryon for hopping on the program this week and talking about a little bit of his journey through player, coach, team owner, commissioner, all that, and to see the progress that the league has made while he's been commissioner has been really cool to see. And it sounds like they're only just getting started, and they got some cool things lined up. So I'm excited to see it happen. So go onto the Indoor Football League socials and let them know, hey, Commissioner Tryon, great interview on Off the Wall. We loved it. Let them know. Come on, give us a little bump, give us a little boost there. Help us out. Every little thing helps out there. But yeah, big thanks to Commissioner Tryon. Big thanks to some of the folks at the IFL offices I've been communicating with. Really means a lot that we were able to get this done. Because truthfully, I've been wanting to work with some folks within the IFL for a little while now, and it's finally coming to fruition. We're finally starting to make some good progress. So I'm excited to see what some of the off-season stuff we can do to help grow the game of indoor and arena football. But that's the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to check it out. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, means a lot that you took the time. There's only 24 hours in a day. The fact that you chose to spend about 50 minutes here watching this on YouTube, listening on Spotify, or Apple Podcasts means a lot. So please make sure you're following us on socials at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball, Off the Wall FB, Instagram, X/Twitter, TikTok, all the things and stuff. Give us a follow in there. YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, do all the things and stuff. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Please make sure you're rating the show, liking it, pass it to a friend. Let's indoctrinate some more people in this cult of indoor and arena football that we got going on here. So take care. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the IFL National Championship, and we'll see you next time.